Hey, we're back in the overtime segment of A Legal Formation, this time with episode 2 of the Divorce Roundtable with our partner, Ashley Taylor, talking about what's currently in the news and why A Legal Formation, because it involves Stefon Diggs, wide receiver, New England Patriots, big time used to be Buffalo Bill guys, used to root for him. Anyway, Cardi B, and what we're talking about is the disestablishment of paternity when it comes to couples who are trying to get divorced and a new baby comes into the pictures, which is not the husband's. On the family law position, guys, specifically in the state of Florida, a lot of people don't know of what Cardi B has run into, and we have seen a couple times a lot throughout our careers, actually, where one couple is going through a divorce, maybe they've experienced a separation, time has passed, and let's say wife, i.e. mom, has moved on to another relationship and has gotten pregnant. So in this situation, we've got a divorce pending, let's say, for couple A, and couple B are now having the baby. So for the great state of Florida, what Garrett and Ashley are about to unpack, and we actually have a few cases of this going on right now, is what the state of Florida refers to the disestablishment of paternity. So Ashley, walk us through what this really mean in terms of if you're the attorney right now for Cardi B, she's your client, she says, hey, Ashley, I'm trying to get divorced from, who's the rapper, help me?
Offset.
Offset, that a boy. Garrett from the 305, of course you would know from that Dade County. If Cardi B's your client and you're representing her in the divorce with Offset, and she comes to you and she says, hey, Ashley, great news, I'm pregnant with Stefon Diggs. Maybe he's the new love of her life. Right. Unbelievable wide receiver in the NFL. What are you telling her about this expected child in the state of Florida?
So if they're both located in the state of Florida, well, if she's located in the state of Florida, at the time of the birth, if she is still married, then under Florida law, the husband is actually considered what we call the putative father, which means that he is, for all intents and purposes, he is going to have the legal rights for that child. So the concern then for Stefon Diggs is, well, I want to be the father to my child. I'm the biological father. What needs to be done? So what Cardi B can do is she can go ahead and file what's called a disestablishment of paternity action, which would come in and remove the husband as the legal father and step in the biological father.
So, G, let's talk about for a second in this scenario where hopefully good people can handle the situation, but why is Florida's policy where it says, hey, a child born of the marriage is of the marriage? Now, why does the state of Florida come up with this concept? Because basically the public always says, let me get this straight. I, as a husband going through a divorce, if you're telling me that my wife is pregnant with someone else's baby, are you telling me in the state of Florida saying that's my baby and I'm responsible for that baby?
And you're on the hook for child support.
I think of two reasons right away. One is on a historical basis, it used to be sort of, not good if you were not born of a marriage. We don't want to bastardize this child. Exactly, he was born during the marriage, but if we disestablished and the child's bastard, and so they used to, want to get rid of that as a possibility. The second reason is, I guess they want people to take care of their kids. They don't want the state of Florida to have to bear the burden of this child who might not have a father or, not legally anybody responsible for him. So that's the other reason why they would bring it into
so even in these cases, they're still using that best interest standard where they're looking out for not the parents, not the people, but the child in particular. And Garrett's actually has a couple cases going on right now where literally, talk about G for a second of how you have to unpack that for the court and how hesitant the court is to do anything until, i.e. this new baby that's come in is going to be protected.
The thing where we want to set it up is that even if you do say, hey, another father is the father of this child, it's not the husband in this marriage case, the court still has to find that it's in the child's best interest to disestablish the husband as the father and transfer the child to the other father's care and custody and legal obligations to him. So you could have a situation where everyone agrees, this guy's the dad, but the court still says it's not in the child's best interest to make that person the dad. You guys are stuck with him, whether that's because it took too long to figure it out, the child's already like 8, 9, 10 years old, we're not going to do this to the kid, or maybe the new father is broke or he's got problems.
Could be incarcerated, could be substance abuse, could be alcoholism. We've all had cases where a lot of times, to Garrett's point, perhaps the new pregnancy, the new child, 8 years old, 10 years old, 14 years old. Mom kept that secret, maybe never found out. And then the divorce ensued. Right. And so the court system actually kind of looks at the totality and says, hey, I don't care about your personal problems. I care about this child for the best interest. Are we really about to break the news to this child that dad is not the real father? And then the state of Florida obviously doesn't want a child being dumped on a system that says, hey, well, who's going to pay for, who's going to support? And I think in all of our careers, we've had that situation where the client confidentially says, hey, we may have an issue here that nobody does about.
What's interesting in this scenario, what's happening here is that it looks like Cardi B's husband, according to her quote, that I'm practically still married because somebody wants to hold me hostage if I don't give them millions of dollars to get out of it. So if that's accurate, and the holdup is coming from her husband, that's not what we normally see. What we normally see is in order to not even have to deal with this disestablishment of paternity stuff, you will see if you have a situation where the husband finds out they're not the father, they say, get me out. Whatever it takes, get me divorced before the birth.
Faster.
So that I'm divorced when that child is born. If they're divorced at the time the child is born, now this issue is not present. So this is unique.
That's a great distinguish. It's not just the pregnancy, it's that a child is born. Right. And that's the issue in the state of Florida here, and who knows about the tabloid. Right. But it looks like they're fighting about two things. One, a piece of property, and two, taxes. So if she was my client, for instance, I would say, Cardi, if we're talking about $1 million, that's something different. If we're talking about 20 grand on back taxes, and you got to give them the whatever house at 800,000, and you don't want it anyway, let's move forward, because otherwise we're going to have to bring in Stefon. We're going to have to say, hey, look, we got to work with you, almost as a disestablishment. And then the court system, Garrett, what can the state of Florida even do with Diggs if they want to? They can say, where's the paternity petition?
Yes, yeah. Just by way of example, the way to set this up with the court, the case that we kind of have going on right now, we're doing a divorce with this establishment of paternity, but we've also got the paternity action going at the same time with the biological father who is on board with taking over. So the goal with the case is to show the best interest of the child to the judge. We're taking it all to the court at one time and saying, we have two hands here. One hand, we're asking for the divorce and the disestablishment. The other hand, we've already got paternity, the biological dad's ready to go, judge. We got child support, we got time sharing. So let's kill two birds with one stone, give us a divorce, get the legal rights over to this dad, and let's be done with the case. So.
Now, actually, if you're a Cardi B attorney, that then with new father brings in a whole host of things, right? Now you're talking to her about what? Time sharing, parental responsibility, how tough that is for a newborn. You're talking about child support on millionaires. Is there going to be an issue there? Bigger picture issues with education, long-term planning, private school, schedules, concerts, NFL. So although the tabloids make it look easy as you're her attorney, you have to walk her through that says, hey, I got to get you out of this. But by the way, in the great state of Florida, even though the statute changed, the end of 2023 regarding fathers' rights, Stefon doesn't really have a whole lot going on in terms of protection of what are we doing welcoming this newborn.
So Stefon is the interesting party here in that he technically, while this is going on, doesn't have what we call standing, meaning he doesn't have the ability to come into a Florida court and say, hey, over here, I want to be part of this action. We call that to intervene because I'm the father and I want to have my rights. I want to have my time sharing. I want to see my child. That's the unique thing on how this, if you will, triangle connects, that he's the one that while the two of them are figuring out is kind of left on an island without recourse.
Not only through pregnancy, but now post-delivery, if they're still married, he doesn't have standing just to walk in and say, hey, I want time sharing tomorrow.
Right.
So what Garrett's doing in his case was, hey, well, I'm going to set it all up with everybody in terms of settlement agreements. But even though it looks like it's marital bliss or relationship bliss, there's a lot that could be unpacked for Stefon Diggs and Cardi B, and certainly with things that we're familiar with, high net worth cases, celebrity cases, it's never as easy as it looks.
Even when everyone's in agreement, we still have to go through the process, check all the boxes, still have to be in the best interest of the child. So, yeah, there's a lot to these kind of cases.
Newborns, pregnancies, deliveries, feedings, infants, toddlers, schools, nannies, schedules. Ashley does it every day, so.
Well, and what Garrett said is the thing that I think we see the most frustrating, right? That our clients are frustrated by, which is everybody can be in agreement and you're still jumping through these hoops.
Oh, 100%.
Which is why, we do see people rush sometimes to say, let's just not have to deal with that.
Move forward.
Whatever it is, let's just get the divorce wrapped up. Sometimes you see the parties walk away from some claims they might have, so that this is not something
Yeah,
that
the
they
question
have to
is,
deal
if
with.
I don't give them millions, that's the question. Is it really millions, is it not? Because that's
Right.
your point, and that's the best one, which is if it isn't, we expedite, we move on to the next one, close one, open one, and push forward before another absolute disaster.
And that's
kinda
your
gets opened
offsets
up.
attorney going, hey, let's weigh your risk here. You want to push on these taxes, however much they are. Do you want to potentially be on the hook for this child? Start thinking about that.
Oh, for sure. They're going to say, look, the court system, to Garrett's point, the state of Florida, anyway, again, this is all state of Florida, is going to say, we have control, you don't, and that's a bad place to be,
Right.
especially for parents. Look, that's Divorce Roundtable. That's Ashley Taylor talking about the disestablishment of paternity and why in the state of Florida it's not as always easy or clear-cut as it seems, and those horror stories of I'm the dad to a baby that's not mine, and I've paid child support, and there's nothing I can do to get the money back is a real thing in the state of Florida, and why they got to have the professionals. They got some help with the statute that just changed in terms of paternity cases, disestablishment process. Garrett referencing that old case law that was absolutely brutal, but nonetheless, still got to get out in front of it. Anyway, that is Divorce Roundtable coming to you from the RS Studios. A little sidebar, interesting topic. Luke, thanks for bringing it to us, man.